I think we are about to witness something that could drastically change the direction of this entire legal saga between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. There's been so much chaos surrounding this case lately, and honestly, anyone who's been following along must be feeling the same mix of confusion, frustration, and disbelief about everything that has unfolded in just the last few days. People everywhere are asking the same questions. What's really going on behind the scenes? What's coming next? How does this end? Or does it ever end? One of the most shocking developments that surfaced recently is that Blake Lively actually failed to show up for the deposition that was scheduled with Brian Friedman just a couple of days ago. Now, that's not a small thing. A deposition is a key part of the legal process where parties are required to answer questions under oath. Her absence raises a lot of eyebrows. People are speculating, why didn't she show up? Is she avoiding something? Is it a legal strategy? Or is it just a delay tactic? From what I've heard, they have now agreed on a new deposition date set for sometime in July, and apparently the deadline for all depositions to be completed is August 14th. That means we are heading toward a major moment where the truth, whatever that is, might finally be forced into the light. But honestly, seeing Blake avoid that deposition left me feeling a little deflated. It stirred up a lot of painful memories from my own experiences with the Golden Globes lawsuits, where I felt firsthand how unfair the justice system can be when you're fighting against people with more power, more money, and more influence. It always feels like the rich and powerful can weaponize the system, delaying, manipulating, and bending it in their favor while the truth struggles to catch up. It's exhausting. And unfortunately, this latest stunt from Blake only reinforces that feeling that when it comes to justice, it's not always about right or wrong, it's about who can afford to fight the longest. Still, this fight is far from over. Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's attorney, didn't waste any time responding. He released a statement making it crystal clear that the court's decision to dismiss the case hasn't changed anything about what they believe to be the truth. He said, and I quote, "The court's decision on the motion to dismiss has no effect whatsoever on the truth that there was no harassment nor any smear campaign. It does not in any way affect our vigorous defense against Ms. Lively's claims. Discovery is proceeding, and we are confident that we will prevail against these factually baseless accusations." But then came the real bombshell. Friedman added that rather than wasting time amending the current claims, their team is now looking into pursuing additional legal options. That statement sent a ripple through the entire legal commentary world. What does that mean exactly? Are they planning an appeal? Or could this be the prelude to filing an entirely different lawsuit in another jurisdiction? The speculation hasn't stopped since. What's also interesting is how the mainstream media has picked up on this. People Magazine, Page 6, TMZ, they've all published stories trying to decode why Baldoni's lawyer chose not to amend the complaint. Blake's lawyers quickly ran to the press too. TMZ quoted Blake's legal team as saying the court dismissed this frivolous $400 million Baldoni Wayfair lawsuit in its entirety. In the days that followed, Baldoni's lawyers tried to downplay the judge's decision, promising to amend and refile as per usual. That was not true. The court's dismissal of Baldoni's sham lawsuit was a total victory. But here's the ironic twist. Every time Blake wins something in court, her public image takes an even bigger hit. The more victories she claims, in this case, the more the public seems to turn against her and, by extension, against Ryan Reynolds as well. It's almost poetic. The very lawsuit Blake filed to supposedly clear her name and prove that the public outrage against her was manufactured by bots has only fueled even more real organic backlash. And here's the thing, I'm absolutely certain that Baldoni's legal team will ultimately prove that there was no smear campaign, no coordinated defamation against Blake. I've said this before and I'll say it again, I am living proof of that fact. Plenty of others are weighing in too. A lot of people suggested I check out Judge Liz, a retired judge who has been very vocal about her opinions on this case. In a recent video she posted shortly after Baldoni's lawsuit was dismissed, she expressed her strong belief that the dismissal was based on grounds that are completely unconstitutional. Her words were powerful. She said, if she were in Brian Friedman's shoes, or if she were advising Justin Baldoni herself, she would 100% pursue an appeal. Judge Liz explained that California's anti-SLAPP law, the law that Blake's team used to get the case dismissed, is absurd and fundamentally unfair. She said it outright violates Baldoni's constitutional rights. Her argument is that the law doesn't account for scenarios where someone might be spreading outright lies, ruining another person's career, their livelihood, and their reputation. In her words, it's unconstitutional. I would absolutely appeal this decision. I would challenge the constitutionality of Section 47.1. It's unfair and it doesn't protect the people who are falsely accused. That's exactly what I was saying yesterday. This law, the way it's written, effectively lets someone ruin someone else's life with false allegations and hide behind free speech protections. It's ridiculous. But here's the problem: appeals are notoriously hard to win. Statistically, only 8 to 12% of appeals succeed, and even fewer result in a complete reversal of the previous decision. The appeals court isn't going to re-examine the facts of the case. They're only going to decide whether the judge made a legal error by dismissing it. Still, I believe Baldoni's team knew that when they filed the $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, honestly, was likely a strategic move. Not necessarily to win, but to get critical information into the public record and force the truth out in a way that the media couldn't ignore. And now, this situation with Blake, Ryan, Leslie Sloan, and Vision PR is becoming even messier. Let's talk about Leslie Sloan for a second, because this could be the ticking time bomb that blows this case wide open. Without a crystal ball, Katie did an amazing breakdown recently. In her video, she pointed out that Leslie Sloan is now demanding that the Wayfair parties cover her legal fees since the claims against her were dismissed. But here's where it gets wild. James Deshka, the journalist at the center of the meteor smear campaign allegations, might be backpedaling on his previous sworn statement. According to the analysis, there's evidence suggesting that Deshka was pressured into submitting a declaration that said everything was a misunderstanding. But that statement doesn't line up with his own text messages, which are already part of the public record. In fact, those texts show ongoing communication with Leslie Sloan, including him calling her a liar, and those texts directly contradict his sworn statement. To make things even more suspicious, Deshka recently hired a criminal defense attorney, and not just any lawyer. This is the same attorney who defended Justice Smollett. Why would a journalist involved in a civil defamation case suddenly need a criminal defense lawyer? The implications are enormous. It points toward the possibility of perjury, lying under oath, and obstruction of justice. If this turns out to be true, if Deshka admits he was pressured or coerced into submitting a false statement, this could fundamentally change everything. It wouldn't just be a legal technicality, it would be legal misconduct, full stop. And that opens the door to appeals, sanctions, maybe even new lawsuits entirely focused on the misconduct itself. Let's not forget about the bizarre Vanzen situation. Remember that Vanzen is Blake's shell company that filed a subpoena against Jones Works to try to get Jennifer Abel's phone data. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Vanzen filed this sham lawsuit right before Blake filed her CRD complaint. And then, surprise, surprise, the law suit just quietly disappeared like it never existed. Now, Vanzen has completely failed to turn over documents that were due on June 24th. Nothing, not one piece of paper, was provided to the Wayfair parties. It's becoming increasingly obvious that Vanzen's entire purpose was to serve as a legal tool to dig into Jennifer Abel's private communications under the guise of a legitimate lawsuit. Blake's lawyers are arguing that this is perfectly normal, that it's standard procedure to file lawsuits against anonymous John Does just to subpoena someone's phone records. I'm sorry, but if that becomes standard practice, nobody's privacy is safe. This is pure manipulation of the legal system. Jennifer Abel's team is now focused on uncovering the ownership of Vanzen. If they can prove that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are the owners, it's game over. It would show that this wasn't a real company engaged in legitimate business. It was a legal weapon designed to gather intel for Blake's case. And the fact that Vanzen refuses to cooperate says a lot. People who are innocent don't act like this. People who have nothing to hide don't act like this, period. And just to throw a little bit of shade on top of all this, I recently received photos from a store in New York where Blake's new product, the Blake Brown Mist, is already on clearance. Already. That means it's not selling. It means people aren't buying it literally and figuratively. I can't help but feel that's a little bit of poetic justice. After all the damage she's caused not just to Baldoni, but to the Wayfarer team, her co-stars, the writers, the producers, to see her brand struggle like this feels like the universe sending a little message. This entire ordeal has cost so many people their peace of mind, their money, and their reputations. But this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Because if this Deshka situation truly blows open, if it's proven that a key witness lied under pressure, we are about to see a legal earthquake. Appeals, new lawsuits, possible criminal charges. The big question now is, will the truth come out? Because someone finally decided to do the right thing, or because someone finally got caught trying to cover it up? Either way, the tide is shifting fast. Why would a journalist need a criminal attorney in a civil defamation case? That's the big question. Katie speculates, and I agree, that he may have been pressured or even threatened to sign that statement, and now things are unraveling behind the scenes. If it turns out that he signed a false declaration, that's perjury. That's obstruction of justice. That's a crime. And if this is what's really going on, this could trigger massive fallout, appeals, sanctions, even new lawsuits. There's also the matter of that text message Deshka allegedly sent to Brian Friedman saying, "Please keep me out of this. I don't want to be a part of this lawsuit. I could lose my job." That's incredibly suspicious. If they were already communicating, why would he introduce himself again in that text with, "Hi, this is James Deshka"? It feels curated, scripted, like someone told him exactly what to say. This could end up helping Baldoni's side a lot. Because if a key witness was pressured to lie, that's not just a technicality. That's legal misconduct. If Deshka flips and says, "I was pressured to make this statement," it could blow the lid off the entire case. Meanwhile, there's another shady situation unfolding with that fake lawsuit filed by Vanzen. Remember that Blake Lively's company filed a subpoena against Jones' work, supposedly to Jen Abel's phone. Then conveniently, that lawsuit just vanished right before Blake filed her CRD complaint. Now, Vanzen failed to produce documents that were due on June 24th. Absolutely nothing was provided to the Wayfarer parties. This sham lawsuit could prove that Blake's team and Jones' work were collaborating specifically to dig for dirt on Baldoni under the guise of a fake lawsuit. Blake's lawyers have actually said that this kind of behavior, filing lawsuits against 10 anonymous John does just as subpoena someone's phone, is completely normal. They're essentially arguing that anyone can file a bogus lawsuit to access people's private data. Jennifer Abel is trying to figure out who owns Vanzen, because if she can prove that it's owned by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, that would demonstrate that the whole lawsuit was purely a scheme to invade privacy and gather information. The fact that Vanzen is refusing to cooperate says a lot. People who refuse to cooperate usually have something to hide. Oh, and here's one little bright spot. Someone sent me photos from New York. It looks like Blake's new product, the Blake Brown Mist, is already on sale. Not because it's popular, but because it isn't selling. That's karma. And honestly, I think Blake should be held responsible for the damage she's done, not just to Justin Baldoni, but to everyone else caught up in this mess. Wayfarer, her co-stars, the writers, the producers. This whole thing has cost so many people their money, their time, their peace of mind. Yes, Baldoni's case was dismissed, but if a key witness was pressured to lie, this could completely change everything.